morning and welcome to Home of the World's Worst Weather Live. My name is Ian Bailey. I'm a meteorologist and education specialist, and I'm part of a crew of 6 observers that live and work here at the summit of Mount Washington, taking hourly weather observations, putting out forecast products, and doing research from the top of New England. So thank you for joining me for this Tuesday edition of our broadcast. We are going to be taking a look at the forecast for the next 48 hours, as well as what's going on up here at the summit currently, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end, so if you guys have questions throughout the broadcast, feel free to ask, and I promise I'll try to get to as many of them as I possibly can when we do get to the end of the talk today. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at some of our current summit conditions. So as you can see, it's been a pretty interesting morning so far today. So the winds are still pretty elevated, but they're not as high as they were yesterday. And so we are seeing winds around 61 miles per hour, a little less than about an hour and a half ago, where we were still seeing hurricane force winds across the summit, with a 10-minute wind gust of 69 miles per hour kind of representing that. We are still pretty close to that way, but the wind speeds are decreasing and will continue to decrease as we go throughout the day. You can see we had a maximum 24-hour gust of 109 miles per hour. Now, we did expect things to get a little bit higher than that. We were expecting maybe into the 120, 130 mile per hour range, but 109 is still pretty impressive. It's nothing to turn your nose up against. So we did introduce wind yesterday, and I wanted to show you guys the Haze chart. So this is the active Haze chart that's been recording since midnight last night. This is connected to our pedostatic anemometer on the top of the tower, and as the winds blow harder on that anemometer, it translates all the way back down here to the weather room onto this chart. So this paper chart rotates over a period of 24 hours with a red pen that records ink in relation to the force of the wind. So the further away from the center of that chart the red line is recording, the faster your wind speeds are. And if you look closely, you'll notice that it is wiggling back and forth a little bit. That back and forth wiggle is looking at the gust. So the thicker the line, the bigger the back and forth wiggle, the stronger the gust is. So this is a decent looking Haze chart from our hurricane force winds this morning. Nothing like the example I showed yesterday from the President's Day storm of 2015. But again, it's still a pretty decent looking Haze chart for us to show in relative to the high winds that we've been experiencing over the last 24 hours. All right, jumping back to our full screen to talk about some other things going on. So our temperatures are in the mid-teens. We're hanging out around 16 degrees right now. It did get pretty cold. We went from 41 degrees yesterday all the way down to 16 degrees this morning. So like a 30-degree temperature drop over the last 12 hours or so. So it has gotten pretty cold again. There was a lot of flash freezing because we did see some considerable melting with all the rain that we had. I mean, we did get upwards of 1.4, almost 1.5 inches of rain, a little less since this has progressed through this morning, but that's still a considerable amount of rain. A lot of the snow and ice actually melted off of the observation deck, but then when the cold front moved through, it flash froze, and now we're back down here into the teens. Taking a look at our visibility, we can only really see about 1/16 of a mile. That is an improvement from yesterday. We could only really see about 50 feet across the observation deck, which is pretty crazy. And we've been kind of bouncing between 1/16 and 1/8 for most of the morning today. We are expected to break out of the clouds at some point, but for now, we're still very much sitting in this freezing fog. And then taking a look at our vertical temperature profile, again, this comes from our mesonet, a series of weather stations that go from the summit all the way back down to the base of the mountain, measuring things like temperature and wind speed. As you can see, basically the upper half of the mountain here, all the way up to the summit, is below freezing, and we're hitting here at like 16 degrees. And then as you go down to the base, you actually get back above freezing. So we do expect temperatures to decrease with height as we go upwards to the summit of the mountain. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that the lower half of the mountain is above freezing, and the upper half of the mountain is below. So that's what's going on with our current summit conditions, and let me go ahead and show you what sunrise looked like this morning. We still don't have our observation deck hammered back just yet, so I'm going to show you guys what it looks like because it was really interesting. You can see how very much we are in the fog, but above us it's actually mostly to partly cloudy. So let's go ahead and check this out. So you can see this really thick fog bank sitting right on top of the mountain. Look how thick that is. And then above, it goes from mostly to partly cloudy conditions. Now you'll watch to see that this will actually start to decrease as the morning progresses. It did get a little bit thinner, but we are still very much sitting in it up here. We are very much in the thick of the fog, and hopefully it will kind of burn off here in just a little bit, but it has gotten a lot thinner than when you first saw at the beginning of the video there. So we are very much still in the fog like we've been all morning, but we are looking forward to finally breaking free of that at some point. Oh, pardon me, my camera didn't zoom back. So we're looking forward to breaking free of the fog at some point. Hopefully we'll get to see some sunshine because it's been a pretty crazy shift so far. We've only really seen sunshine for maybe like a couple of days, and then we had that really impressive snowstorm that moved through that dropped 21 inches of snow, and then we saw almost 1.5 inches of rain yesterday. So some sunshine would be very welcome. So let's talk about the forecast for the next 24 to 48 hours. This is, again, is a satellite view. So you're looking at infrared satellite, and the brighter colors are showing you higher, more well-developed cloud tops. And so I want to show you a couple of features here because first and foremost, many of you might be wondering, where did that low pressure go that moved through yesterday? What happened to the system that produced all of that rain and all of those strong winds? It's actually way up here. And you can even see on the satellite view, there is a ton of rotation still going around the system that's affecting all the way down into the north central plains, down into the Great Lakes, and then just north of New England proper. So there's still plenty of rotation moving around that low. It will actually pick up and move some moisture into our region. We might see some upslope snow showers tonight and maybe some snow showers going into Thursday morning, but we'll get there. And then the other feature of note, you can see some pretty impressive clearing out here. So there actually is a developing region of high pressure coming off of the Rockies down here into the central plains, which is allowing for some pretty clear and stable conditions. And this high will actually swing down through into the mid-Atlantic and inevitably work its way into New England over the next 48 hours. So we'll be watching for that. And also there is some organized moisture down here, some developing cloud tops in the north central part of Florida. So this would be another point to watch, maybe for some low pressure development. We'll see here when we get to the surface maps in just a moment. But this is what's going on in the satellite view, and it's kind of cool that we can still identify these different pressure systems just by looking at an infrared satellite. So let's go ahead and jump into some surface maps and talk about what's going on here. So let's start with our synoptic view again. So we're trying to take a look at the big picture national scale at the different things that are going on. And I'm going to work my way from the west coast over here to the east coast. So right here, there's your high pressure that I was talking about just a moment ago. This, as we step forward, you're going to watch it swing into the mid-Atlantic and start to push into the northeast. It will be replaced by some organized moisture in the developing low pressure system coming off the Rockies behind it, but that probably won't have any real big impact until we get into like Friday heading into the weekend. So enjoy some clear and stable conditions out there in the western part of the country. Down here, we'll be watching for this low pressure development, and I don't believe it's a terribly strong low pressure, but enough to organize some moisture, maybe some showers, and possibly some thunderstorms. As that low tracks up, we'll watch for it to go up the east coast and inevitably work its way out into the Atlantic. And then here it is. There's a low from yesterday. So it's still an impressive system. It's down at 973 millibars, and it's still rotating all of this moisture down through, picking up stuff over the Great Lakes and pushing it into our neck of the woods. So as we step forward in time, we'll be watching this to go off to the north, but we'll still be watching for things to rotate around the outer edge of the system. A couple of upper level disturbances which will organize enough moisture again to maybe produce some showers heading into tomorrow morning and then maybe even into Thursday morning, but nothing like what we saw yesterday, just some light brief showers for the region that those moisture plumes are moving through. So let's step forward in time. So this is into tomorrow morning. So again, there goes the low to the north. We're getting organized moisture here to the southeast. So if you live down in the Carolinas, Virginia, all the way down to Florida, you are seeing some showers, maybe some thunderstorms along the coastline. And then we do have these pockets of moisture moving from the Great Lakes up here into the New England proper. We're going to be basically in this channel of air. We'll have moisture to our south and moisture to our north. We'll have some relatively clear and stable conditions, but again, maybe some upslope snow showers in the morning with partly to mostly cloudy skies above. That will carry through rest of the day into overnight into Thursday. So now you see more organized moisture is picked up here in the Great Lakes and is starting to progress into New England. The low that was moving up the east coast is now tracked off further into the Atlantic, and we are still seeing rotational effects from the low far to our north in Canada, still producing relative moisture plumes, not so much in the way of wind. We'll be watching for our wind speeds to drop pretty significantly, but we'll still be watching for moisture to rotate in as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours into Thursday morning. And finally, you can see the high pressure starts to build in. We will be watching for some clearing conditions after this initial blast of moisture here in New England. So like Vermont and northern parts of New Hampshire might be seeing some snow showers for the early hours into Thursday. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut might be seeing some rain showers a little bit further south, but it won't last terribly long. Once that high pressure moves in, basically headed into Friday, we'll be watching for some pretty clear conditions and pretty stable conditions headed into the weekend. So let's go ahead and jump to our neck of the woods up here to the northeast to get a closer look at what's going on. So this was 8 o'clock this morning. You can see not a whole lot here. We are in this channel between the remnant rotating moisture from the low to our north and the one that is slowly building to our south. And there's this little pocket of moisture here in north central New York. But for the most part, we're in the clear. We have enough moisture at summit level to keep us in the fog, but as you saw in the video, there are pretty much partly cloudy skies above. This will last through most of the day today. As we get ready to head into the overnight hours, you can see moisture that's organizing here over the Great Lakes. So if you live in this neck of the woods, maybe some pop-up showers, especially down here in West Virginia and Virginia, you can see some showers, maybe even some snow showers in the higher elevations of the Appalachians down there. This will track into our neck of the woods headed into Wednesday morning. So here it comes. Also, you see, we do get a brief spat of a low up here. Nothing terribly strong, nothing to like write home about. But this is that upper level disturbance that I was talking about a moment ago that is lifting moisture from the surface and allowing things to organize like they are. Nothing terribly strong, nothing that what we saw over the last couple of days, but enough to allow this to occur. And we do have the low that is tracking up the coastline that will eventually work its way out into the Atlantic. So this is at 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then we'll jump over to 8 o'clock. So you can see now most of the moisture is starting to move off. So down here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, again, you might see some rain showers. We might see some upslip snow here on the summit for the morning hours, but then we'll have some clearing as some drier air starts to move in along this channel. This moisture moves off, and we're waiting for the next round of moisture to rotate from the Great Lakes into our neck of the woods. So we'll go ahead and step into the afternoon hours, getting ready to head into the evening. Here's the next round of moisture coming from the Great Lakes. So again, if you live in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York, you'll be watching for some rain, maybe even some snow showers if your temperatures are cold enough. And this is going to move its way up here and actually just miss us. So it's going to track mostly to the east, and then up here, again, we might have some upslope snow showers, but then we'll be in the clear under partly to mostly cloudy skies. Down in Massachusetts, you might see a brief blast of heavy rain or snow before that tracks off later into the morning. So this is 8 o'clock, so now by this point, the moisture is already starting to move out over the Atlantic. We're starting to see some drier air move in as this high pressure starts to cross in. And then as we head into the afternoon hours on Thursday, we're getting ready for that dry air to take hold and set us up for a pretty easy day on Friday. So that's what's going on with precipitation. Let's talk briefly about temperature and what's going on here. So what's going to be interesting to watch is, first of all, our wind speeds are going to drop. And I can go ahead and highlight for you right here so you can see this is right now this morning. We are sitting underneath a jet max right here. So there's an organized pocket of air at the mid-levels where we're seeing the accelerated wind speed. So this is what's been driving our wind this morning. This will move off, and we'll be watching our wind speeds to drop back down into the 30, maybe 40 mile per hour range here on the summit as more stable air starts to move in. And we'll also watch, we're going to kind of get locked into a channel here between the temperatures that are rotating from the previous low, the temperatures that are rotating in from the low moving up the coast. We're going to get locked into some pretty easy temperatures. So we're going to step forward into the afternoon. Oops, still got my pen up. We're going to step forward into the later morning hours into the afternoon. So now you can kind of see, well, maybe you can see, let me help you identify. The wind is actually blowing along the temperature gradient here. So this is the relative wind path as it's going from the southwest to the northeast. And you can see temperatures are also kind of transitioning from warmer temperatures to the southeast and colder temperatures to the northwest. So this is that channel that I was talking about a moment ago. For us up here on the summit, it means we're pretty much locked into the lower teens for temperatures for the next 12 to 24 hours. And that's going to pretty much be the case until this low disturbance and the moisture that is coming in moves off and we start to see that drier air move in. So let's step forward into Tuesday afternoon to the evening. Again, here's that channel. Not really much in the way of a temperature change, and our winds by this point have very much dropped down into the lower, almost seasonally average conditions for here on the summit. During the overnight hours on Wednesday, so this is 2 a.m. on Wednesday, again, here's that low. Nothing overly impressive, part of that upper level disturbance, enough to bring that moisture into the region, maybe to let us see some upslip snow showers. So we'll watch. Here comes some colder temperatures, and here come the warmer temperatures from the southeast, and they're going to kind of clash, and we'll be stuck in the middle, and not much is going to come of it. Our temperatures will pretty much remain static all the way through Wednesday. So now you can see the moisture and the low that was tracking up the coast is moving off. We've got high pressure that's starting to rotate in from the southwest, and once that high pressure becomes more dominant, we'll watch for our temperatures, these colder temperatures to the northwest, to start to move in. So let's head into Thursday morning. Now you can see here come the deeper blues, the purples, and the lighter purples. So this is 2 a.m. Thursday morning all the way until 8 a.m. There we go. So now at this point on Thursday morning, it's going to be pretty cold up here. We'll see temperatures down in the single digits, and it will be pretty chilly. Our winds won't be terribly high. Wind chills will probably still be below zero with that. But we'll be in the clear, partly to mostly cloudy conditions and cold. So not really a whole lot going on over the next 24 to 48 hours, but again, that's kind of welcome after we saw a major snowstorm and a major rainstorm, both in this week alone. So that's what's going on with our weather. If you guys are looking for more information, you can head to our Higher Summits page, so you can find out lots of information for the forecast that was put up by Jay, our night observer. So he talks about the low pressure system that moved through yesterday, how that's going to still have an effect on us, and we'll see some pockets of moisture and also the wind speed drop. Lots of really great information from here. So if you're looking for more, you can head to mountwashington.org to the Higher Summits forecast and check that out. Also, make sure you guys go to the Home of the World's Worst Weather live page, mountwashington.org/classroom, where you can find information that you might have missed for the last couple of broadcasts that we've done. So we did our wind talk yesterday. If you missed that, you can find the worksheet here, and you can also find some activities and experiments. You can actually make your own wind vane, which would be really cool. It'll help you measure wind direction right there in your own backyard, just using things you can find around your house. And if you missed yesterday's broadcast, you can scroll down just a little bit further, and there it is, episode 7. So you can go back and watch that, where we talked about wind, why Mount Washington sees the crazy wind we do, how we measure and observe it, what wind is, all of that really good stuff. So make sure you guys check out these links for more information. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And speaking of questions, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab my phone and check out what you guys have been posting in chat so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I possibly can here. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see. How was last night up there? That wind was crazy. Yes, the wind was crazy. Admittedly, we've seen higher winds, but 109, 110 is nothing to turn your nose up to. It's still pretty impressive. And on top of that, we were seeing a crazy amount of rain and warm temperatures. So all of the ice that was left over from Tom's shift when they had those incredible icing conditions was like falling off the side of the tower and smashing on the A-frame. And sometimes the chunks were so big that when they would make impact, it would shake the building. So it was a pretty interesting yesterday for sure. Evan would like to know what kind of plants can survive up there. That is a very good question. Hopefully one of our deep dives will talk about the alpine zone up here. This is a very special and unique place where there are plants that can live in these subarctic conditions and have evolved and adapted to basically thrive in the cold and the crazy wind speeds and the snow. Things like Diapensia and Lapland Rosebay, Alpine Azalea, all of these plants that you can look up on your own, but hopefully we'll do that, talk about the Alpine Garden, because it is fascinating how these small little plants have evolved and adapted to the crazy conditions up here. Marcella would like to know, have you or Tom ever lost something important that blew away in the wind? Yes, actually. So I lost my goggles last winter. It was my first winter here on the summit, and I was de-icing in probably 121, 122 miles per hour, and it was so bad it blew my goggles right off of my face, and they went off and I lost them for several months. Luckily I found them when the snow finally melted, but they were basically ruined. They were all scratched up and destroyed. I'm not sure if Tom has lost anything. You can definitely ask him when he comes up, because we're doing our shift change tomorrow, so Tom will be doing the next broadcast on Thursday, so make sure you ask him then, because it'd be interesting to see if he's lost anything too. Josh would like to know what temperatures cause hypothermia, and has anyone there ever experienced that? It actually doesn't take very cold temperatures for you to experience hypothermia. So anytime that your core body temperature drops substantially lower than 96 degrees, that's when you start to feel the effects of hypothermia. And there are people up here who hike on some days when they come up here when it's like maybe 40, 45 degrees outside and rainy and windy. It's still pretty warm up here, all things considered, with those temperatures, but that's enough if you're not actively prepared and wearing the proper gear for you to start to drop your body temperature and get to the point where you start to experience hypothermia. So I personally don't ever recall experiencing it. I'm a Boy Scout. I've been trained on like cold weather injuries and things like that since I was little. So I've always known to prepare properly and look out for that. But I have seen some people who are suffering from the effects of hypothermia, and you just have to make sure that you prepare properly and plan accordingly so you don't get to that point. Let's see. How much snow did you lose during the rain? Almost all of it. So we got to 21 inches of snow with the snowstorm that moved through the other day. And then just in the 24-hour periods of rain that we saw, we got all the way down to 6 inches up here. So we went from 21 inches of snowpack down to 6 in this one rain event. And that's actually pretty common when we have these major rainstorms up here as we transition from the winter to the spring/summer season. So we still have a little bit of snow and ice, but a lot of it melted yesterday with all that rain. Tyler would like to know, can aircraft land or can people hang glide at the summit? I don't think you can hang glide. I don't know if anyone's ever tried. New Hampshire State Parks pretty much keeps a tight-knit situation up here, and the airspace above Mount Washington is restricted, so you can't like fly your own personal aircraft right down to summit level. I do know that the Coast Guard and other military organizations fly helicopters up here, and there is a helipad just a little bit further down from the summit, right next to the auto road, where they can land and do training, where they can do like touchdowns and takeoffs, and they try to hover in high wind speeds. And so, yeah, we do see helicopters up here pretty regularly during the summer and sometimes in the shoulder seasons to do some of that training because of the crazy conditions we see. All right. Actually, that looks like all of the questions for today. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to post them here in the chat. You could always send us a direct message to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and we're always happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. This is my last broadcast with you guys for the week. So again, Tom will be coming up for shift change tomorrow, and then he'll be taking over the broadcast for Thursday. So you connect with us on Thursday at 11:15, where he'll be giving a forecast discussion. And then also, really quick, I want to point out what his deep dive talk is. So a lot of you guys have been asking about pressure systems and like what makes low pressure so strong, and does every single low pressure produce storms? Really great questions like that. Our next deep dive on Monday, April 20th, is going to talk about temperature. So Tom will go into deeper detail about what makes a high pressure, what makes a low pressure, how they evolve, how they become stronger, all of that really good stuff. So make sure you guys continue to ask those questions this week, especially this coming Monday on the 20th when Tom talks about pressure, a really good time to bring that up. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the talk. I'll see you guys when I get back up here in about a week and a half, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all so much.